So, yeah. So today's session, we deep dive into one of the most urgent but often underreported issues in conservation, the illegal trade in wild species, particularly the rising demand for exotic pets in South Asia. What appears on social media as a cute marmoset hanging out with its owner, or we see sugar gliders playing with teens playing with sugar gliders in the park, or a beautiful African grey parrot on someone's shoulder. These things often hide a grim reality of forests emptied, animals smuggled in brutal conditions, and criminal networks profiting from the biodiversity loss. There was a recent report from IUCN, the Conservation Translocation of Displaced Animals, and it states that more than 11,700 species across the world are at the risk of extinction just because of illegal trade. And this ranges from orchids to spiders and, of course, snakes and songbirds that we normally have. So millions of live plants and animals are seized every year. In this webinar, we will hear from experts who have tracked these illegal networks, studied the ecological impact of it, and worked on ground to rescue animals and bring traffickers to justice. We will explore how online platforms have become new frontiers for this crime and the challenges enforcement agencies face, and perhaps more importantly, what each of us can do to register and report this trade. I encourage all the participants to stay engaged throughout the session, take your notes, and bring your questions. But please refrain from any political comments or inappropriate comments that may not be answered or entertained. We will have a question and answer session in the end of both the sessions where we will take your questions. So without further delay, we will introduce our first speaker for the day, Mr. Jose Louies. Mr. Jose is our CEO at Wildlife Trust of India, and he is also the chief at the Wildlife Crime Control Division at WTI. He has been the thinking brain and oftentimes also the muscle behind several enforcement operations. If you have guys seen the Amazon Prime series Poacher, he is the real life Alan. Jose, you have 20 years of experience in this field. Could you start?
I lost your audio for a moment.
Where was I last?
Okay, I mean, your question was not audible to me.
Okay, Jose, you bring 20 plus years of experience from the field. So could you start off by giving us an overview of the illegal wildlife crime in India and its international implications in the last few decades?
Yeah, thank you, Madhumay, and thank you everyone who's joined from various parts of the country and other parts of the world. And I know on a Friday doing a webinar is a bit of a challenging thing, but we already have 60 plus people. So yeah, wildlife crime is an interesting topic, and if you look back, I mean, I thought let me just talk about this 25 years from 2000 to now. What is exactly the wildlife crime which India faced? So, India was always, or India is always famous for things like tigers, and it is known as the land of tigers. From maybe Jim Corbett is the person who made tigers so popular across the world, and the tigers in India, and there were various stories and myths associated with tigers. But uh, after 70s, I mean, till 70s, there were rampant hunting. In the 1800s, in the 1900s, there were rampant hunting by various sets of people, whether it was the Maharajas, whether it was the British rulers, whether it is the Indians themselves, because there was cultivation happening and tigers, elephants, there were a lot of hunting happening. And then India started protecting its wildlife with a strong legislation from 1972 with the Wildlife Protection Act. We said that we will conserve these animals. But poaching trade always remained as a major challenge in India. So my introduction, I would like to talk a bit about what happened in last 20-25 years in India. I mean, some of the major things, because I hope that will actually set the stage for discussions. Um, there was always wildlife crime, but in the 90s, there was a committee, Subramaniam Committee, which was formed by the government to investigate what is the scenario with wildlife crime in India. And Subramaniam Committee came back and gave a report saying that wildlife crime is indeed a major threat in India, and they gave some recommendations. And with the recommendation, government started thinking about proactive measures to counter illegal trade. And the trade in the 90s itself, the trade in rhinos, tigers, leopards, elephant, this was known. I mean, India was a source for these products. Unfortunately, many of the Southeast Asian countries were connected with the trade from India. Things were originated in India. So that was in the 90s, and in the late 90s, that was the situation. But in the early 2000s, if you look at 2000, 2003, there were major seizures in India. I mean, the seizures in northern India, especially the infamous seizures in Ghaziabad and in Kaga border, where tens of wildlife animal articles, especially tiger and leopard skins and tiger bones, a number of wildlife articles were seized in the early 2000s in all over the country. This actually was an alarming call for us, and it was underlined. It was proven that when we kind of lost tigers in Panna and Sariska, there were no tigers in Sariska all of a sudden. So that we understood that our tigers are disappearing to poaching, and that was considered as a major threat. And in as a response to this, the Indian government started looking at stricter measures, and in 2005 we got the National Tiger Conservation Authority formed because our tiger numbers were going down. If I remember correctly, the tiger numbers in 2006 was 1411 or something, 2006 or 2007 something. And 2007, the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau was formed because we as a country, we understood that our wildlife is at a greater risk because of poaching and trade. But I also would like to tell you that people like Sansar Chand, who was arrested in 2006, if I remember correctly, one of the major player who was involved in tiger and leopard poaching since he was a 13-year-old boy in the 70s. So I could say that he was kind of a godfather figure in the illegal wildlife trade in India. And that was probably the first big victory for the Indian enforcement authorities to counter illegal wildlife trade. Now, when you look at people like Sansar Chand or the gang associated with Sansar Chand or the network associated with Sansar Chand, the products were originating in India. It was tiger skins, tiger bones, leopard skins, bones. Sansar Chand was not involved in ivory as much as I know, but also otter skins. All these things were go from India towards Tibet through Nepal, or directly from India to Nepal, or maybe through to other parts of the world through other neighboring countries. So India in the early 2000s was a source of these products, which was highly valued in the international market. And slowly, steadily, systematically, our population of big cats were getting wiped out. And I will say that we were watching a bit helplessly to begin with, but then the proactive measure came in the form of NTC and WCCP. So that was the first step that the Indian government took. So I mean, even though this is a meeting which we are talking about Southeast Asian countries, but I would like to say that, as one of the major hub for the trade, how India reacted and countered the trade. But also in the 2000s, we also looked at very other interesting things. Like we were still having sloth bears dancing on the road. We were still having, snake charmers roaming around with the king cobras. We discovered that the softest brush we were using for painting is made of mongoose hair. So the mongoose hair brush thing was discovered. Very famous brands were actually marketing mongoose hair brush, saying that it is a squirrel hair. So we were looking at a different type of trade. But in towards the end of 2010, or maybe by 2010, there was a dip in the tiger poaching because these agencies were working. There was major gangs were busted. So that was what was happening. One interesting incident I want to share in the early 2000s is, or mid 2000s, that there was a seizure of lab specimens in Agra. That was very interesting because thousands of wild animals, including, I remember, gharial babies, were put it in formalin and put it in glass jars and supplied all across the country. So that was like, I mean, not only that, but there were, seahorses, there were various species of snakes, uh, uh, hundreds of thousands, hundreds of turtle hatchlings. All of this were, put it in small glass jars and, sold across the country. So we were looking at a different kind of trade in that time. And between 2000 and 2010 and 2015, I will say that is when the trade slowly started changing. Early 2010, in 2009-10, we discovered that the platform Orkut, which I don't think that many of you even remember, there was a social media platform. There was an attempt to sell wildlife goods on the Orkut platform. People were started networking, and they understood that internet is a good place to sell things. So I'll say that in between 2010 and 2015, we started looking at the trade of live animals, especially pets, especially tortoises and birds, in the social media platform. So the internet-based trade started coming in, and major trade in turtles, in especially in the Uttar Pradesh region, Indo-Nepal border region, came out in the open. Large number of freshwater turtles were smuggled from Uttar Pradesh to West Bengal and to other areas. So that's a major thing which was happening in 2010 to 15. And maybe the whole internet trade was ruled by the infamous double engine. Double engine is the double-headed snake. And I don't know, there is no double-headed snake actually. It is a poor red sand boa. There was a lot of trade happening. What we call as these trades were the fake trades, that people started telling that these snakes will cost you crores of rupees, and that was started happening. And there were, the code words for double for this, like a double engine or scooter. All these things were happening. And then another animal or another bird which was being traded was the barn owl. So there was a lot of such trade started happening. I mean, we were already witnessing there is a trade in tiger, leopard, and other things, but then the new products started coming into the market in the form of these things, and it was slowly getting support by the social media and internet and other platforms. But also at the same time, tiger poaching came back. After a gang was busted, almost after 10 years, you started looking at the organized tiger poaching, both by the North Indian gangs, that is the gangs based in Rajasthan and Haryana, and also the Central Indian gangs, MP gangs. Both started active, and they started trading, and they started hunting and trading again. So 2010 to 15 witnessed the resurgence of tiger trade. Tigers were hunted. And also, interestingly, incidents like poaching in Rajaji National Park of the tuskers, where a plant-based poison was used for killing a wild tusker. This was again a technique which was known to only northeastern communities, northeastern tribal communities, which was kind of a closely guarded secret by certain tribal communities, were utilized in a state like Uttarakhand. So we are again seeing that, the networking and nexus of traders. So 2015, 2010 to 15 was that. 2015 to 2020 will be very interesting, because my first experience was the biggest ivory trade racket, which is operating from Kerala to all over the country, which resulted in busting of a large network of poachers, buyers, traders, carvers, everybody. We were looking at trade with a large amount of money involved, people involved, and we were not looking at poor people, or we were not looking at people who are doing this trade for a living. But we were looking at people who are actually making millions out of illegal wildlife trade. And if many of, I know many of you will remember this now. In 2015 or 2014 to 2018, 20, that is when the pangolin trade started peaking in India. In the previous years, like in the early 2000s or in 2010s, there was not much of a trade in pangolins. But in mid 2010s, like 2015, 16, the pangolin trade in India started peaking. I mean, some of the gangs which were operating in central India, which a good friend of mine, Mr. Ritesh from Madhya Pradesh Forest Department, I mean, he was tracking the trade, and we were looking at people in the Indo-Myanmar border. So we are looking at a resurgence or an emerging of a new set of traders, a new set of players. Again, very well established, I'll even say that multi-level marketing kind of a thing, like, There is an agent and there are sub-agents. They're going and collecting pangolin scales and setting. So we were looking at very organized way of trade. Again, in a regional sense, this is very important because India was a source and India was actually catering to the demands of trade across other regions. But I mean, with all these things happening, you have a Wildlife Crime Control Bureau and a national mechanism. And I think this is the time in 2015 to 2020, Wildlife Crime Control Bureau started, focused operations. Some of these operations like Operation Wild Nets or Operation Clean Art and Operation Kurma. So we started, I mean, the challenge was there. There is a different type of trade happening and, different players entering different products, I will say, animal products and entering into the market. And that is when the National Enforcement Agency also changed their tactics and method, and they started, coming out with a dedicated operations. So I think that actually started changing the equations in the trade, that when the trade is getting organized, the counter action also started getting very well organized by the enforcement agencies in India. They started looking at specific areas, specific species, or specific platforms. Like there was operations which was focusing on social platforms, etc. So it's a matter of pride that the CITES actually recognized the WCCB's work in the international platforms, how Wildlife Crime Control Bureau was countering the illegal trade. But not only Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, but agencies like the UPSTF. UPSTF played a major and very important role in the Indo-Nepal region to counter the illegal trade in turtles. UPSTF started looking at the illegal trade of turtles like a very organized crime. They started using monitoring mechanism. They started listening phone calls. They started monitoring people who are in. So that was kind of an organized response again to an organized trade. Things started getting dismantled. Again, the challenge of tiger trade was there in 2017, 2018. We had incidents in central India, Maharashtra. Gangs were busted, and we were again looking at the resurgence of the tiger trade. On the other side, there was peak of rhino horn trade in Assam also happening between 2014 and 2017 or 2018. You can see that was the highest peak of rhino poaching in India. But after that, you saw a steady decline because of improved enforcement activities. Things like Hatha Jodi, I mean, the infamous monitor lizard penis, which was traded as a magical thing. These things came. We were more and more looking into the trade which is happening in the realm of India. I think in the last 5 years, if you look at, the trade has changed a lot, and interestingly very much. We were looking at, let me tell you, we are now looking at well-educated, well-networked, tech-savvy traders. That's the biggest challenge in wildlife crime. Wildlife crime is no more the game of a man who is going and hunting tiger alone. The amount of money changing hands, or the amount of networks which are organized using internet and or engaged in illegal trade of exotic animals is very big. In last 5 years, I think that's the major trend change which is happening. The profiles of the trade has changed. The profits in the trade has changed. I mean, I purposely thought that today I don't want to show you a presentation with all fantastic photographs or maybe exciting photographs. I just wanted to talk to you. In last 5 years, things changed. We are looking at a different dynamics. Even the tiger traders changed. I mean, most of you from India must have seen the news article of almost 100 plus tigers were from various parts of the country last year. It is very, very unfortunate, and as a person who is working in wildlife crime, I feel ashamed that we could not protect that many tigers. But when you look at the culprits or the suspects behind the trade, these are the new age tiger poachers. They are no more the old tiger poachers. The profiles have changed. They use super bikes. They travel in between airports. They use online money transaction. I mean, they are like any of us. They look normal. They talk decently, but they know how to do the trade. They learned a different way of looking at the trade. Unfortunately, we have a neighboring country, Myanmar, without much of a law or law and order happening. There are Myanmarese gangs sitting in Myanmar asking for illegal wildlife goods, especially cat bones and skins from India. So it's like a dry sponge sitting next to your country, and a lot of our wildlife is traveling towards the Indo-Myanmar border. That's a major challenge. The challenge in the online platforms is major challenge. So this is where we are. I mean, I could only capture this much in a short period, but the trade in last 10 years, last 20 years has changed. It evolved. There is an evolution happening in the wildlife trade also. The product is changing, the people are changing, the profiles of the people are changing, the modus operandi is changing, that side. And also on the other side, the enforcement agencies are changing. I mean, today I have Secretary Acharya from Secretariat, agencies like SAWEN or UNEP, UNDP, WCCB, state forest departments, police agencies, CBI, all these agencies across the country is trying to, counter the trade. But I'll stop with the two recent incidents. One is that few weeks back, we found that golden langurs are smuggled in India. I mean, we never thought golden langurs are really found in very, very, very restricted areas. We are finding that people are smuggling golden langurs. And on the other side, in Africa, we are finding that people are smuggling ants. So where are we going from charismatic species? We said that, okay, we are getting into a lesser known species. Now probably we are getting into the trade of unknown species, because many of the species of ants and crickets are not even listed in wildlife protection acts of many countries, or not even find space in CITES. But that's where the trade is going on. I'll stop here with the thought that, how much money somebody will be spending for an ant colony to buy. I mean, that's a kind of new age pets which we are looking, and that is where the trade is moving from elephant tusk to tiger bone to ants. So that is what we are looking at now. I'm sorry for a long elaborate answer, but I was literally, I thought that I'll make this note and I'll answer this. So this is what the context, and these things are available in various platforms online for sale as we speak.
For sure, these are certainly interesting. Like trading in ants, this is something we could never have thought about. Also, while you were speaking about the transnational organized crime, it is often compared to other like arms trafficking or human trafficking. So, is there a link in between, or is it the same? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at wildlife crime and other organized crime, there is um, um, a convergence between these two, because people who are involved in this illegal activities, illicit activities in the border, they smuggle a lot of things. And often we came across with the bartering, that you send wildlife products from India to other country and you get narcotics in return, or firearms in return. So there is always a connect between the illegal wildlife trade and the other illicit trades. So that's very, 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 very much known and very much documented, and it is very much there.
Yeah, like going through social media reels, like I also do Instagram continuously for organizational and personal purposes. Also, there are so many reels of species like sugar gliders or marmosets, people handling them. So, do you think the trade nuances are changing? Like, it was barn owls, which was for religious purposes, or people dealing in traditional Chinese medicines. But is it changing now?
Yeah, because another interesting thing which maybe I would like to talk about is there is a new dynamics to wildlife trade now. I mean, if you look at people using wildlife, I see a lot of people in Indian social media using snakes to increase their reach or their likes or their shares. That's a wildlife crime, because if you look at it, they're making a lot of unprofessional, ethical, dangerous videos with wild animals, and that is for not just for likes. But if you look at the economics behind it, you will immediately see a very interesting economy behind it. I mean, if you make a reel, one of my colleague who is monitoring cyberspace told me that there are people who are putting up animals and saying that this video with this animal will increase my reach by 10,000 or 15,000. But what are they doing it for? They're doing it for money, because if you increase your reach, if you increase your digital footprint, your followers, you will get ads, and that is money. So you don't need to consume that animal for traditional medicine or magical purposes, but you also can use a wild animal illegally for things like social media monetization and all. So that's a different breed and different set of people we are looking at, and that's really catching up, and that's really alarming.
Yeah. So talking about online trade, first, can you explain what is an exotic species? Like, what is it per se? Like, we have heard about endemic species, but what are exotics?
Exotic is very simple. Exotic species is an animal which is not found in your country or not protected under your law. So in India, a grey parrot is an exotic. It is not found naturally in
Right.
India. It is found in another country. So when it is brought to India, it is treated as an exotic species. It is protected currently under the Wildlife Protection Act. Earlier, it was not protected. Currently, these animals are protected under the Wildlife Protection Act.
But if suppose it breeds, then
If
does
it
it
is
change?
breed, then also the exotic animal title legally there are certain changes. Legally there are certain provisional changes, I will say, but there is as of current law, there is certain levels of protection to this animal or certain restrictions in trading these animals.
Uh, okay. Now, next thing, coming to the cyber crime part of it, India had banned TikTok a while back, but there are other platforms that are active. In other countries, there are sites like eBay or IndiaMart that are still active, and I think these are the platforms people are using for online trade. So, what are the specific challenges that these platforms bring in, like for people like you who are doing enforcement?
Well, I technically don't do enforcement. I assist enforcement agencies.
Yeah.
Let me be very clear about that. Enforcement agencies do it, but we assist enforcement agencies in investigations as and when it is needed to help them. So the problem or advantage of digital platforms are digital platforms provide you a lot of immediate with the buyer and the between the buyer and the seller. You have something to sell, you find a buyer. There is a lot of verification also can happen. Over a WhatsApp video, you can examine the animal virtually and you can see that okay, the person has got the animal. And also it is also offering a lot of anonymity in the sales. Like you can create a fake ID, you can create a fake mobile number, and also not a mobile number, an email ID, and then you can set up an account and sell. So that itself is the challenge for any investigation agency, finding the details, finding the detail of the person, because it's a digital identity. You have to find a person to arrest. You cannot arrest a digital identity. You got to arrest the person behind it, finding the person, then again finding evidences which can be admissible in the court. So these are the biggest challenges in countering illegal wildlife trade in the cyberspace.
Right. On part of enforcement agencies who do these kind of work, what has been the response? Like, is there a new? Are they also using AI tools or new tools to counter the trade?
Oh yes, now I mean, especially when I talk about the agency Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, they have their own cyber cell now. They have got some of the advanced softwares and tools, cyber tools, to ensure that they have the capabilities of doing investigations in the cyber platform, or they can handle digital evidences. They can handle mobile phones, tablets, laptop. They can do data extraction and analysis, and also advanced tools like IBM I2, many other analytic softwares they are using. So definitely, the region has seen a major shift in the technical abilities and skills of the enforcement agencies across country. But when it comes to state forest departments, probably that is yet to happen, because many state forest departments need such levels of skill sets. But more than that, I will say that wildlife crime is still considered as a responsibility of the forest department. Many places other agencies are supporting, but still it needs to be it needs to get more attention.
Hmm. This is the right point to tell this and also ask this question. Sorry, uh, since a lot of crimes are happening and animals are getting seized from all across the country. So once an animal is seized, where does it go? Like if it's an exotic, where does it go? Do you send it back to the home country, or what happens with the animal?
See, as per the Indian law, any animal, any exotic animal is seized, or even an animal which is found in India is seized. The first thing is to repatriate it back to them. I mean, if it is an exotic animal, if it is not a native species, it should be repatriated, the country of origin, where it originated from. So that is the first step. So the animal will be quarantined and given medical help, because it is a live animal. I mean, it's a life. So
Yeah.
you have to send it back to the country of origin. But that's a major challenge. Many times there are no takers for these animals from the country of origin. So there are legal complications, there are procedural complications. You cannot just send it back to the country of origin. You cannot just return. It is not like an Amazon package that you don't like it, you send it back. You have a lot of procedures. You have to take care of the animal. If that is not possible, then it will be transferred to a rescue center where the animal can be housed, and then again a repatriation will be attempted. If nothing happens, the animal actually, unfortunately, it will end up in a rescue center. That's not a good thing for an animal. Ending up in a rescue center, in my personal belief and institutional belief of WTI, every wild animal has a right to go back to wild. If it is a bear cub which is caught from a poacher, it should go back to wild. I mean, if it is an Indian animal, it should go back to the wild in India. I mean, we were involved in rehabilitation of animals. I remember getting a few hundreds of star tortoises in a box in an airport in Kerala, and transporting it back to a natural habitat in Chinar, and undergone a 3 months process of rehabilitating them back to wild. It's a tedious process. It's a painstaking process, but with the support of forest department and with the support of experts, we were able to do that. And not only us, but many other organizations, many other individuals in this country has done that, sending animals back to wild. So that should be there. If it is a wild animal, it's best to be in the wild. So that's what we call it, back to wild.
Okay, last question from my end. This would be, we know that WCCB, the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, it's the nodal agency doing such enforcement actions. Uh, do other enforcement agencies like the Customs or the Border Patrol or the Indian Army have a role to play? And also, where does WTI come in? Like, what is WTI's contribution in the fight?
Yes, most of the enforcement agencies has a mandate to illegal activities. I mean, I'll say, except army, who is always looking outward for trouble. All the other border patrolling agencies, they will. I mean, I'm not telling army is not doing it, but that's not their primary mandate. But even you look at SSB, Assam Rifles, Customs, or Railway Protection Force, local police, everybody, they have a mandate to, if they come across with wildlife trade or wild animal trade, they should respond, and they are doing it. It is not that it is an exclusive job of the forest department of the Wildlife Control Bureau. Many of them does it, and under the Indian laws, and there are provisions for all these enforcement agencies to detain or arrest people, suspects who are involved in the illegal wildlife trade. So far, my experience with many of those enforcement agencies are very positive. They're very proactive. They often go out of ways and do walk the extra mile to ensure that such kind of suspects are captured or on trade is stopped. As an organization, our responsibility is this enforcement agencies wherever it is possible, whenever it is possible. That's what we do. Whether it is collecting data, whether it is doing studies, whether it is doing some field work and providing operational assistance, that's what we do. And also we do a bit of an online check and what is happening in the cyberspace, and share this information with the enforcement agencies. I think as an organization, Wildlife Trust of India is interested in two things. One is understanding what is happening, and the main thing is that we ensure that we pass this information to the enforcement agencies where actions can happen. I mean, they ensure that, I mean, we probably not that much interested in publishing a report on the illegal status of illegal wildlife trade in India in 2025. We may not be interested in that. We may be interested in getting that person to the justice if he is involved in an illegal wildlife trade. So that is what the motto of the organization. And also we look at rehabilitating animals back to wild. We have rescue centers in many parts of the country where every day we deal with animals which were center either by conflict or or by trade or by poaching or any other activities. So that's what we do.
Well, thank you, Jose. And talking about collaboration and the common fight that we are fighting, we will now bring in our second speaker for the day, Dr. Krishna Prasad Acharya. Welcome, Dr. Acharya. Dr. Acharya serves as the first Secretary General of South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network. We also know it as SAWEN, SAWEN. With over 30 years of leadership in forestry, biodiversity conservation, and environmental governance, he has deep expertise in both national and transboundary conservation. Prior to his role at SAWEN, Dr. Acharya held several senior level positions within the government of Nepal, including being the Director General of the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Conservation and the Secretary at the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, shaping Nepal's conservation policies, protected area management strategies, and transboundary initiatives. This also includes leading the country to its first ever achievement of zero poaching rhinos. With his extensive experience and proven leadership, He is now driving SAWEN towards a more unified, responsive, and impactful regional enforcement network. Welcome, Dr. Acharya. To start off, could you tell us more about SAWEN and the work that it does?
Thank you very much, Madhumai, and also thank you very much to Josh and team in WTI for inviting me. Very good afternoon to all of you. I think it will be better, maybe I will put a slide here so I can explain.
And while sir updates it, you're just getting an update from the field that there was about a dozen turtles caught seized somewhere in North India. So the trade is, even you have a webinar going on, the trade is happening in the field.
Yes,
They are not attending this.
Non-stop.
Yeah, now sound, it is sound. This, yeah, it is. This might should come now. It
Yes,
says,
sir, we can see the screen.
South Asia is now going to be a highway for illegal wildlife trade, specifically pet and other. So today, I'll be speaking about the SAWEN and what we are doing here and the global scale of and urgency of the exotic freight trades. And then within that, there is some use or misuse of legal trade in terms of illegal trade, and then the real status trans border situation of South Asia and what we are doing and maybe what we'll be looking for ahead, how we should go together. So in this way, I think we can initiate the collaboration as you mentioned earlier. So I'm Krishna Acharya. I think this is the picture on the snake that was kept arrested in Mumbai last week by Indian custom.
Are there two snakes here or one?
It is one.
One snake.
I think there were several.
I mean, maybe two snakes. I mean, we can see only one head and two tails.
Two tails.
There are two tails, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network is intergovernmental body, I just asked, and this is all eight countries in South Asia are member of this network. Secretariat is based in Kathmandu, and we help strengthen member countries in combating illegal wildlife trade through coordination, collaboration, support in enforcement, capacity building, research, and sometime implementation of their national action plan. So this is our main mandate, and we can also go behind the region in terms of coordination and facilitation for controlling illegal wildlife trade. As you know, no, somebody say third or somebody say fourth. So what is the situation overall in global perspective, in global scale, and the urgency of exotic trade? You see, it's the third or fourth largest transnational crime. And the latest report of 2024 World Wildlife Crime Report says it involves 6,000 species. South Asia contributes 9% of those total. And all seizure, 44, according to this seizure, 44% of seizure involves live animal. And Jose earlier highlighted, now earlier South Asia was source and transit, but now it is one of the strong consumer. I think India imports a large number of pets now legally and so. And then there are mechanisms adopted by trader and poachers how to utilize and misuse the CITES. We know CITES is a legal mechanism, legal trade. And there is a movement, every trade should be legal. It doesn't mean that there should not be any trade on wildlife. It means if there is any trade, all trades should be legal. And we do also publish, bulletin just capturing seizure data from South Asia. We start in 2011. Our record shows, almost 64% of those seizures are of live animals, mainly reptiles and birds. You can see, so we also analyze, ourselves, we CITES secretary analyze the CITES trade exporting by member countries and importing by member countries, SAWEN member countries, 8 countries. Very interesting to note, the data says 1.5 million live animal legally traded each year, CITES data, but even traffic estimate, the number could be double, 3 million live animal legally traded. And out of those legally traded, mostly they are reptile or birds and mainly used for pet. And there are evidences, there are several literature you can see. Even we have produced evidences that those legally permits, legally issued permits are misused or are falsified through different means. And in South Asia, it is the only Sri Lanka who use paper permits. And it is time now that all member countries has to go for e-permits, at least the biggest country like India. And mainly my presentation also will be mostly highlighting the issues within the India and the transboundary nearby. And we also notice, we also notice South Asia export 23 million of individuals during the period of, let's say, 1974 to 2023, but import almost double. Total number of, the import is 47 million. Means we are importing more individuals than what South Asia is exporting. Means I don't know if really we are the source of this trade in terms of species. And over 70% of those, live imports are again from reptiles and birds. Means mainly used for pet. And very interesting, very interesting information in CITES trade data from India. I'll cite two, India and Nepal. You can see here, grebet monkey, which is native to Eastern and Central Africa. As I said, it's exotic to India, exotic to whole South Asia region. And there it shows 360 million specimens of grebet monkey is exported from India. And there is no unit, there is no source. It just says, this much was exported from India, and it is, it is exported to Russia, Egypt, and Algeria. Very interestingly, maybe it's for biomedical use and others, but we don't know. The species is not available in South Asia region. So these are the reason, why there is a chance of laundering, of parts or species in this illegal trade. So I have just also highlighted the CITES trade data itself here. You can see, it's all happening in 2019. It's a grebet monkey. Export country is India, and import country name is here, Russia and others, and this is the unit specimen. Similarly, Nepal has imported 35 lions, starting from 2005 to 2017. You can see one of the consignment is of 18 individuals. And exporter, there see the discrepancy between exporter and importer number. So 18 live. And in Nepalese law itself, any, let's say, rearing of this species is not allowed. Means we don't know where these lions are now. All these are, I would say, missing. The reason I am presenting is likely they might have, destined somewhere in India or nearby countries. And this is the porous border again. South Asia is very, very huge and large, inaccessible porous border, ecologically connected, legally fragmented, and inaccessible. And this, arrest of 40 exotic in 2025, including chimpanzee, rare tortoise, and monkey, all this was made in Assam by Indian enforcement agency. You can see, and then, as you said, if you once enter into the Myanmar, nobody knows, where they are going. Nepal, India has 1,751 kilometers over border, open, no visa, no passport, so it's easy. Similarly, India, China, it's a silent, but it's a 3,488. So considering the India mega diverse, you can see it's a bordering with land border with so many countries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and maritime borders with 4 countries with huge, difficulties in monitoring and enforcement. And this again is Indian from India side. How from Kolkata it can go to international destination, going through all the through Dhaka, so Bangladesh, and then from eastern part of the India, mainly Mizoram or Assam. Oh, this is you were asking one question to Louis earlier, so here is some answer. No? or what we really need to do. This picture actually I took 4-5 months ago in Colombo. This is the Colombo Zoo. These species, this scissor was made by a coastal guard in Colombo. Species coming either from Latin America or Africa or Australia, and about which nobody knows, what is their feeding behavior, what is their ecological behavior, what they eat, where they sleep, where they, what is their other habitat requirement, and so attractive, mostly the reptile, and even they might have come with unknown several diseases. We don't know, and nobody knows. So there are no holding capacity. See, because of the lack of the capacity, they are keeping them in zoo, and there is a legal court case ongoing. Again, there is legal challenge. So again, in this case, there is a need for rescue management of species of their seizure after the seizure. Otherwise not possible to repatriation. For example, in this case, it was not. And again, this seizure was made by custom. I would like to highlight some of those agencies. When there is a transborder issue, then it is the custom who has the authority to check at the first and also to permit at the end. And in terms of legal enforcement of illegal wildlife trade, maybe all South Asian, we are not enough to include custom is as effective to, let's say, forest official or police officers. And this is again Sri Lanka, and the paper says, these several exotic animal species all going to destination to routed to India. This is custom Sri Lanka from, I got this from Sri Lanka custom, and there were such 10 seizures. And I think this is again the air route in India. You can see, this is, I think, analyzed by Traffic India for a period of 2011 to 2020, where 18 airport in India, 70,000 wild species. Out of those, 46% are reptile. And out of 46%, 65% is red-eared silver turtle. So, so you can see where is the focus on this all illegal trade. And this is again the leopard cove in baggage, Bangkok to Chennai, 2019. It's a Trichy Airport, Malaysia. You can see, albino, pythons, green iguanas, even python are in plastic water bottle, mineral water bottle. You can see here some live, live spider names in plastic vial. And this was coming through foreign post office in Chennai. So it was the case of 2021. And very recently, I was just searching very recently what is happening in India across the board. Delhi Airport, 23 feet, 60 live species. Bangalore Airport, 23 major seizures, 600 live animals. Chennai Airport, 2 monkeys, rare African species. March 2025, 8 exotic. Trichy Airport, 26, live green pet. Earlier report, 25. It means, this is happening across. And this is the picture that maybe it is in BBC. It was a news from BBC. Indian man arrested with 47 Banals viper in bag at Mumbai airport, and the picture was in courtesy of Mumbai custom. So as Louies also mentioned, South Asia illegal trade pattern has been changed. Earlier there was in 1970 was with the top in exporting ivory carvings and animal skin. Now it is moving to the live animals, birds, and marine species. We are not talking much on the marine species. So what this trade brings us, it brings us human health risks, big states. It brings, several diseases are possible: psittacosis from parrot, salmonella from turtles, herpes from primate, and this of snake bite, or those, unknown hybrid, let's say, captive species behavior, we don't know. And the biodiversity and ecosystem has also impacted already because of the release of those species is already seen in some part of the India and also in Nepal. And then you can see ecosystem itself will have impact by the removal of those species. And invasiveness, sometime, pet release cases is python in Sri Lanka in some wetland has been widely noted, green iguanas in some urban area of India. And then again, one is ethical concern and animal welfare, which a bit was highlighted by earlier by Louies. Captivity also deprived the animal natural behavior. So all these are consequences of illegal trade of live animals. So what we are doing at global level now, SAWEN has been very recently, just yesterday, we received a letter from, in wildlife crime. It's a global movement headed by the previous Secretary General John Scallen, and then it is to advocate wildlife trafficking, to be recognized as a serious transnational organized crime. Unfortunately, wildlife crime is not now. There is no mechanism to recognize at global scale, global law, that wildlife crime is a serious transnational organized crime. So every country in the region or every country in the world has to lobby for this. And also, from our perspective, we can mobilize our member country. And then just bringing from the previous slide, there is a chance of spreading of diseases, all coming from trade or derivatives, live animals. So it should be linked with One Health approach. Very recently. So we as I said, we are now 47th champion in this in wildlife crime movement. So what we'll do is we'll collaborate with member countries and lobby for these global policy movements. If it is only because within country it's fine. CITES doesn't is not able. CITES wasn't maybe not designed in 1973 to address the changing socio-economic and this consumer globalization and the trade phenomenon. It was 73 just listing few species. Now time has been changed to include and to recognize this as one of the crime, a very serious crime. So only two. So there is ongoing work on one, including this on UNTOC protocol, and second, endorsing One Health aligned trade law reform, including CITES. Even there is no requirement to produce let's say quarantine certificate now. So all those kinds of things might help. So this is an ongoing movement. So what we are doing again, because nobody can win alone, in this mechanism of fighting with illegal wildlife trade. So SAWEN is, we are trying to lead. There are 15 or 16 those, wildlife enforcement networks across the globe. So we are having the second, webinar to coordinate and collaborate among all those wildlife enforcement network. The second purpose is on 30 July. So I invite you all, if you are interested, then to join it. And the reason is the information exchange, best practice learning from different part of the world, or sometimes data sharing and other protocol sharing. I think we really can be benefited from each other. So we also are trying to have some joint event inside the scope, so that we can build our strength. So what also we are doing, last year we visited 375 different law enforcement officials in terms of capacity development, and this is the very recent the second last was the very UNODC jointly organized meeting in New Delhi 1 month ago. And again, maybe South Asian countries, there are different mechanisms like WCCB in India, Sri Lanka, Nepal also has WCCB, Bhutan is also endorsing WCCB, and Bangladesh also is endorsing WCCB. Sri Lanka, once establishment of SAWEN, they have created Sri Lanka Wildlife Law Enforcement Network. So we have proposed, maybe you can see in the 31 July next month, we will bring all SAWEN member countries to Colombo and interact with Sri Lanka Wildlife Enforcement Network, encourage them and learn from them, and also share our best practices. So this is an opportunity of interacting among the member countries. So finally, in order to enhance and extend the regional mechanism, because when there are more than one country or two countries, then we need some regional mechanism. So for this, we are working to promote joint patrols, real-time data sharing, border operation, share database mechanism, and also some legal harmonization, because country varies. For example, Bangladesh has maximum of 2 years imprisonment of, in case of poaching and trade. They do not recognize, and in some countries it's like a civil case only, for example. So it is time has changed, time has come to coordinate, collaborate, identify the gaps in legal mechanism and work together. So what we believe is, what we believe ourselves is united South Asia against wildlife crime only will be able to battle any of those crime, and any one country or any one agency cannot win this, in this trafficking fight. And then it is harming the national security, it's not harming economic, and it has, economic and social implication. So let us unite. What we would say, like to say, is let us unite across border, sector, and system to project the future for our planet by tackling the states, not done by national action, regional alignment, and legal operation and global, framework. Then only we will be able to address this regionally. So from my side, again, let's unite, and then only we will be able to in the wildlife crime. When you asked the what is the SAWEN, I presented a bit more, and then maybe it will be useful for further discussion. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
It was really insightful, sir. But so much traffic is happening, like in such scale, and so many species are at risk. But I will also have to ask you this: since so many countries are involved in this collaboration, like as SAWEN being a collaborating agency, are there any specific challenges, like in relation to trade being online, or the legal procedures being different for other countries?
Can you repeat? I couldn't hear you.
Since SAWEN is collaborating, like it's a collaboration, collaborative effort. But I am sure there are specific challenges to it also, because as you said, the legalities are different in different countries. Also because of the online part of the trade, the cyber aspect of it, encrypted messages, blocked paywalls. Are these also challenges that SAWEN is addressing, and are the specific tools that SAWEN is using?
No, this is very new. This is a relatively, there are two or three area where it's a relatively there are new dimension in aerial wildlife trade at global scale or regional scale or country scale. No, those are cybercrime and financial linked with financial crime, and then linked with animal health or human health disease.
Yeah.
So, which I think I would say, we much haven't done anything across in this region about the human health or One Health approach, specifically on illegal wildlife trade issues.
Mhm.
That's some good example in human health part. All know about it, but very few people know about it, about the illegal wildlife trade and associated disease. So that's a new dimension. And very recently, we are preparing our strategy and where we have included it, this, working together for One Health approach. So yeah, that is our future plan for One Health disease part. Regarding finance, uh, we again haven't done much except having few capacity development activities. And we did a small, survey 2 months ago in ourselves in SAWEN Secretariat about the scale of online trade. I think India holds almost more than 50% among the South Asian countries. And it's very interesting. Not only the social media, is e-commerce platform are heavily used in advertisement of the species. The difficulties even is with the excess that, there are again the, let's say, Meta or others, they put the privacy issue, no. It's
Yeah.
really just doing alone is really difficult,
Mm.
and doing manually again is extremely difficult. Going through each and every cases. So we are trying to collaborate with AI, as a AI agency, specifically linking with some Google supported mechanism. We are exploring that. We just started on this. Is we would say we don't say we don't have much experience on it, but we have started. And again, pet trade, Pakistan is very high in, let's say, cub or lion or falcon, and the market from Pakistan is to Middle East again. So it is a different part of, let's say, which is not very close. And then Bangladesh, pet trade, aborted, very significant. So that's why CITES also has put a trade ban on Bangladesh. So different countries, different situation. We are just entering on that space.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I believe that endemic can be exotic in a different part of the world, but with such organized network, no species has been left out. Like ranging from big cats to apes and butterflies, everything is available at a price. If you have the money for it, you can buy it. That's the situation right now. Okay, at this time, we'd be open to taking questions. I have a few questions on the chat box, but keep putting your queries in. Uh, the first question I would take is from Shalom. His question is to Jose. How strong are our laws against these new tech savvy traders and poachers? How strong are our methods in trying to abolish this illicit acts towards wildlife? And what are the changes that can be made through our laws or our scientific methods that we follow? Jose, this question is directed to you. Jose, you there? Jose, you're on mute if you are there.
There was a small issue. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the question. So there is no, see, the Indian laws, if you look at it, it's one of the strongest laws across the world. There is no question about Indian laws being soft. But yes, there is a problem. There is a skill issue, or there is a operational issue when it comes to enforcement, especially when the trade is online. The major problem is not the detection, but the major problem is the documentation and ensuring that the evidences are gathered correctly and presented correctly in the court. That's very important. So the biggest challenge, I will say, that detection is easy in social media platform, because in my opinion, that if somebody is trying to something, they will put it in a platform, in a public platform, and you can find it. But uh, difficult thing is to gather enough evidences to ensure that there is conviction after the arrest. Otherwise, I'll say that detection, no punishment, it's an encouragement.
Right. I think this also answers Ivana's question for a bit. She asks why wildlife crimes in India, why is there low conviction rate? I think you want the legal part of this webinar tomorrow also. If you can join in there, we will have Louies, who is associated with the High Court of Delhi. He would also be the right person to answer this. But other questions, yeah, interesting question. What do you think about Bantara? What are they doing is legal?
No, I mean, I know that a lot of people are asking comments or questions about certain rescue facilities in India. Let me tell you very frankly that Vandara is not doing anything illegal. Whatever they are doing is legal with the paperwork, and it is, when you are doing things with paperwork, you cannot call it it's illegal. So they are getting animals from across the world under rescued conditions or abandoned conditions, and the Indian government is looking after all the paperwork, and they are saying that yes, it is legal because the paperwork is clear. So illegal trade will happen when the law is violated. So it is not when it comes to law, I will say that it should be black and white. If they have the facility and or anybody, any rescue center, any recognized rescue center who has the facility, they can bring animals. It should be under the law.
Okay, there's one question from Devang Shirani, again to Jose.
Yeah.
Unfair political interference
I'm
affecting.
reading it, Madhumai. I will answer that. No, I mean, see, I mean, don't give a blanket comment on unfair political interference. I came across with the politicians who are very strong about things, or senior officials who are very strong about things. They say that we don't want this to happen. So there are, I mean, like anything, there are different individuals, different human beings. Their ethics and their morale will be different. but not all the politicians are bad. Don't think that. Yes, there were some issues. There are some issues. There will be some issues from interferences, but there are always good officers and good individuals who are committed to do.
Yeah. Thank you, Jose. I don't see any other questions. So yeah, this was the first day of the session, and I believe we have learned a lot from both of you. The workshop, as it is, will continue tomorrow, and the tomorrow's session is more on the legal aspect of illegal wildlife trade. The timing is the same, 4 to 5, and joining us alongside Dr. Acharya will be there with us, and we will have Mr. Louies Sharma, who is an advocate in Delhi High Court. The registration link is the same. Yeah, that's it. If we don't
Madhumai,
have
if you don't mind, I will answer a couple of questions. There were 5 tigers killed in Karnataka
Okay.
by suspected poisoning. You can't say poisoning unless and until it is proven in a lab. So it is a suspected poisoning. It is an unfortunate incident, and this is also an alarming sign that the increased number of cats, increased number of tigers in tiger reserves where they are going out and they are doing cat, there will be retaliatory killing. This will happen, and this is not going to stop immediately, because tigers will go out, they will lift cattle, and a farmer will definitely, take retaliatory measures. I have my sympathies to the farmer for the loss of his livestock, but when I talk, legally, it is a crime that he killed animal. And Karnataka government has compensation options and schemes. They should have explored those options instead of doing such retaliatory. It is sad, but it is it is illegal.
It is illegal. Yeah. Vishnu, I think your question has been answered. There's a question from Varsha. Can you talk about little bit about the progress of OSINT? I don't know what that is. Tracking e-commerce trade of wildlife.
Yeah, it's known as OSINT. OSINT is the open source intelligence. Yes, there is a lot of development progress happened in India. OSINT in legal investigations, and in the light of data privacy policies, OSINT, the word itself is the answer. Open source intelligence. There is nothing. The OSINT investigators don't investigate anything which is private and personal. They only investigate what is publicly available data. Open source intelligence is that you just investigate what is publicly available. I mean, you collect data and you investigate based on the data which is available in the public domain. So as long as you are sticking and you're ensuring you are within those brackets of the definitions, you're not violating any laws.
Okay. What about Indian species which are not covered under WPA? Like
if it is, I mean, let me give a legal answer. I mean, tomorrow you will get the legal answers from Louies, my good friend. But as you ask this question, if it is not covered under the Wildlife Protection Act, it is not protected. It's very simple.
Yeah. If we have a legal wildlife Indian species, yes, this is an interesting question. I think we will answer. We will have answer to that tomorrow also. Who to inform if you spot a trade happening or you want to report a trade?
Yeah, see, the thing is that if a trade is happening, I'll say that the best thing is that you should go to the local regional forest officers first. And then we have Wildlife Crime Control Bureau. These are the agencies which should be responding towards wildlife crime. As an organization, we can always assist, and we are very happy. I mean, suppose if you don't want to go to a law enforcement agency directly, but you want to, go through. I know that people are little concerned about going to a law enforcement agency with information. I don't think anybody should worry. I mean, best thing I tell that, don't wait for someone to assist you. If you come across with something illegal, go to the nearest forest office. Now today's internet age, you have WCCB hotlines, phone numbers, emails. Send them details. They'll take action. And well, as an organization, there is a team. My team, people are here, and most of you are connected with them over the emails. Just send us a message, and we will definitely assist you in connecting with the right agencies in case of there is a help needed.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah,
okay.
We overshot by 10 minutes. If there are any questions by anybody, please, I mean, if you raise hand digitally, then they will unmute you and permit you to ask direct questions. There is no problem. That's digital hand raising, not physical hand raising. We kept people muted, everybody, just because to avoid a lot of housekeeping activities. So
Yes,
otherwise,
I think Mansi did put in the chat box. Can I unmute and ask?
yeah. So if somebody can unmute her, or if anybody has a question, you can ask.
Otherwise, we can continue tomorrow also. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I think that's great. And let me thank everyone on behalf of WTA team, and for participating and asking those questions. And I also thank KP sir for participating and sharing his knowledge with us. And he's somebody who has got a lot of experience, and he's taking SAWEN to the next level, and we'll be working together, and we'll be taking this together. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, my team, Madhumai, and company for organizing this.
thank you, Josh. Thank you, Acharya sir, and
Much.
thank you all the participants. Okay, now we end the session.